outside is tucked away beneath a soft, velvet curtain of midnight blue. And as you settle into the warm embrace of your pillows, imagine a small stone workshop where the air is perfectly still and carries the faint, comforting scent of sweet beeswax and freshly cut pine. Inside the lantern maker's shop, a single small flame burns steadily within a polished brass lamp, casting a long and rhythmic amber glow across the wooden benches and the tall stacks of clear horn panes. There is no sound here but the soft, steady pulse of the quiet night and the distant, muffled sigh of the wind in the eaves, creating a space that is perfectly safe, perfectly warm, and entirely peaceful. You are invited to let your breath slow down, to match the quiet rhythm of the flickering light, and to drift away into a day built of silver glass and golden wax. Chapter 1. The silver moon is still hanging low over the darkened rooftops when the lantern maker stirs, rising not with a jolt, but with a slow, fluid ease that feels like a continuation of a dream, moving through the quiet house where the shadows are soft and long and the floorboards remain silent underfoot. He enters the workshop, a room that holds the coolness of the night in its thick stone walls. And the first task is always the same, a slow and methodical gathering of the elements that will soon become the evening's light. He reaches for the heavy blocks of unworked beeswax, feeling the incredible smoothness and the slightly tacky weight of the material, and he begins to shave the wax into a large copper pot, a slow and repetitive motion that requires no thought at all, just the steady rise and fall of his arm, a movement that feels as natural as the swaying of the trees in the wind. Shave, lift, drop. Shave, lift, drop. And with every movement, the wax makes a soft, shushing sound that is like the ocean far away. He repeats this many times, his mind drifting into a state of quiet meditation, where the only reality is the texture of the wax and the rhythmic sound of his own breathing, until the pot is filled with a soft, yellow mound that looks like fallen starlight in the dim room. Next, he turns to the glass and the horn, the clear panes that will protect the flames from the wind, and he runs his hand over the smooth surfaces, feeling the coldness of the glass and the organic, slightly ridged texture of the thinned horn. He gathers his frames, the delicate skeletons of iron and tin and wood that have been prepared with care, laying them out in a neat and orderly row on the workbench, where they catch the flickering light of a single tallow candle. The air in the workshop is beginning to warm as he stirs the small fire beneath the copper pot, the wax slowly beginning to melt and turn into a pool of liquid gold. And he stands for a moment, just watching the way the light dances on the ceiling, casting slow, wobbling shadows that look like the waving of tall grass in a summer field. There is no hurry here, no urgency to the dawning day, only the slow transition from the stillness of sleep to the stillness of work. A transition marked by the smell of hot wax and the soft, white light that is now filling the small windows. He gathers his pliers and his small hammers, placing them exactly where they belong, and he feels a deep and abiding contentment, knowing that everything is in its place, and the day is unfolding exactly as it should, one slow and gentle movement at a time. The world outside may be waking to its chores and its noise, but here, the time is measured only by the steady melting of the wax and the slow, invisible passage of the sun across the stone floor. He feels the weight of the day falling away before it has even truly begun, replaced by the simple, grounding reality of the metal and the wood. And as he waits for the wax to soften, he breathes in the stillness, letting it fill his lungs and slow his pulse until he is nearly as still as the walls themselves. Watching the amber glow and listening to the silence of the morning. Everything is slow, everything is soft, and the world is a place of infinite patience and quiet, golden light. As he touches the cold iron of a lantern frame and feels the potential for light held within the dark metal. He notices a small spider spinning a web in the corner of the rafters, its movements as slow and deliberate as his own. And he feels a kinship with every quiet creature that moves through the world with purpose and peace, as the wax turns into a clear, golden river in the pot. Chapter 2. Slowly, the sun begins to paint the workshop in a warm, buttery light as it climbs higher into the soft blue sky, and the lantern maker begins the long and meditative process of assembling the lanterns, his hands moving with a relaxed and steady strength that feels like the turning of a great, silent wheel. He takes up a sheet of thinned horn, its surface translucent and pale, and he begins to fit it into the narrow grooves of a wooden frame, his fingers moving with a gentle, fluid motion that ensures every corner is snug and every edge is true. The horn makes a soft, clicking sound as it slides into place, a sound like a quiet sigh or a distant wave, and he repeats the motion for each side of the lantern. Slide, fit, press. Slide, fit, press. A pattern that has no beginning and no end, only the steady and hypnotic rhythm of his own breathing and the soft heartbeat of the wood. He leans his weight forward, his eyes following the movement of his hands as they create a world of structure and shadow, and he finds that his mind becomes as quiet and clear as the air above the clouds, far away from the noise of the world. He touches the surface of the finished frame with his fingertips, feeling the incredible texture of the joinery, the way the wood and the metal interlace to create create something that is as steady and true as the passage of the sun. Next comes the pouring of the candles, the most quiet and delicate part of the day, and he takes a long wooden ladle to scoop the liquid wax from the copper pot, the golden liquid falling in a slow, heavy stream into the stone molds. He waits for a moment, watching the wax settle and turn opaque as it begins to cool. And then he carefully places a wick of braided cotton into the center of each mold, the thread moving so lightly that it seems to be floating on the air. He repeats this process for dozens of candles, his hand never wavering and his mind never rushing, for he knows that light grows best in the silence of a patient heart. The room feels like a sanctuary, a place where the clocks of the world have stopped, and the only measure of time is the slow, invisible cooling of the wax and the slow turning of the sun across the wooden floorboards. He feels the warmth of the light on his shoulders like a heavy, golden blanket, a comfort that keeps his muscles loose and his heart at peace. And the air is thick with the sweet, honey-like scent of the beeswax. Sometimes he stops to just look at a finished lantern he has made, admiring the way the horn panes soften the light and the way the metal latches click with a solid, satisfying sound. And he feels a kinship with every traveler who has ever carried a light through the dark to find their way home. The wax on his fingers and the dust on his apron are a source of comfort, a sign that he has spent his day in honest work, and he feels a deep and humming peace that radiates out from his chest to his very fingertips as the hours pass in a blur of quiet productivity. He takes a small, lit taper and begins to light the candles within a row of finished lanterns, just to test their draft, watching as the tiny flames bloom like golden flowers behind the horn, casting a soft and flickering glow across the workbench. He watches the way the light dances, moving in slow and lazy spirals that mirror his own repetitive movements, and he finds a quiet joy in the way the lanterns wake up under his hand. He is content to stay in this one spot for as long as the work requires, a guardian of the flame who finds his greatest joy in the simple act of being present and still. And as he watches the candles burn with a steady, quiet pulse, he feels a profound sense of gratitude for the quiet life he leads, for the wax that burns and the lanterns that protect and the silence that listens. Chapter 3. Deep purple shadows start to crawl across the floorboards as the afternoon sun begins its long and lazy slide toward the horizon. And the lantern maker feels a gentle, sleepy fatigue beginning to settle into his bones. A warm and pleasant tiredness that tells him the work of the day is done. He begins the final, quiet tasks of the evening with a body that feels heavy and pleasantly relaxed, workshop one last time to gather his tools and return them to their proper places on the stone walls. He cleans his pliers and his small hammers with a soft scrap of lemon, wiping away the faint dust of the wood and the drips of wax until the metal is bright and silver once more. And he places them carefully in their wooden boxes, hearing the small, final click of wood against wood in the quiet room. He gathers the finished lanterns, the heavy frames of wood and iron, feeling solid and significant in his arms, and he hangs them from the low rafters, where they will wait for the villagers to come, their polished panes catching the last of the amber light like a row of sleeping stars. He stands for a moment in the center of the room, looking at the empty workbench where the day's labor began, seeing the way the shadows have grown long and soft across the floor, and he feels a sense of completion that is as deep and quiet as the sea. The air is growing cooler now, carrying the scent of the night air and the first hints of the evening mist that rolls in from the valley below. And the lantern maker breathes it in with a sense of peace, feeling the weight of the day falling away as the world prepares to sleep. He walks slowly back toward his small cottage, his footsteps making a soft, rhythmic thud on the floor. And he sees the first star beginning to twinkle through the window, a tiny diamond of light in the fading blue of the sky. He moves with a slow and fluid grace as he prepares for rest, extinguishing the last of the candles with a slow and deliberate motion of his fingers, watching the tiny curls of smoke rise into the air and disappear into the darkness, leaving only the silver light of the moon to guide his way. He undresses with slow and practiced movements, laying his tunic across a wooden stool and feeling the lightness of his body as he steps into the cool, dark space of his bed, where the blankets are waiting for him like a warm embrace. He climbs into the bed, the linen sheets feeling cool and crisp at first, but quickly warming to the heat of his body as he pulls the thick wool blankets up to his chin, tucking them in around his shoulders until he is encased in a cocoon of warmth and safety. He lies there for a moment with his eyes open, looking at the dim outlines of the room, the familiar shapes of the lantern frames and the workbench, and the tall stacks of horn, all resting in the quiet dark. His muscles feel loose and heavy, every tension of the day melting away into the soft mattress, and he lets his head sink into the pillow, his thoughts slowing down until they are nothing more than the gentle pulse of his own heartbeat. The silence of the workshop is total, a deep and liquid quiet that fills his ears and his heart. And he knows that the wax is hard, the lanterns are still, and the world is exactly as it should be, safe and still under the watch of the moon. He closes his eyes and breathes in the faint scent of beeswax that lingers on his fingers. And as the house settles around him with a final, gentle sigh, he drifts off into a sleep that is as deep and nourishing as the light he has spent his day creating. Sleep now,